Bob Ross said, "There are no mistakes, just happy accidents." Well, this project is full of happy accidents then. Overall, I am happy with the way it turned out. Hey, 4 foot rule, right? Looks good from far away, but there's still some close up parts that could have spent a little bit more time doing. Speaking of time, if I had just slowed down and double checked my work, a lot of these would have been avoidable. So let's take a dive and look into those happy little accidents that I encountered with the PS5 stand. My happy little accidents started off in the design and planning stage. The first one was the faces for the stand. And if we take a look here at this first one, yeah, it looks kind of long, right? Yeah, they're supposed to be this wide. This was accidentally done to the depth of the stand, not the width of the face I was trying to cover. All right, fine. We can work with that and we can make some new ones. Well, while that was an issue, I'd already cut everything out, which brings us to the second issue in the design. I'm making this to go on my fireplace, a nice uneven rocky surface. How is this design going to keep it all level? It's not. So I had to pivot and find a way to add some adjustable feet. So that meant cutting out a base to go under the walls to hold everything. So I had an area that I could screw in the adjustable feet. Great. We'll make that change. Another happy little accident. That's all great. I had that base. I had my parts where they were going to sit on. But that being the face between that just kind of gave me that, half oval. I was like, all right, let's change it up. Let's add this to the face, right? And then we can insert some acrylic, do a design, backlight, drew these up, got them cut out. Didn't really think much further than that, which was great. In that time, I got a 3D printer. I was like, hey, let's scrap the acrylic idea and move to 3D print it. Cool. Came up with the design in Blender, went a little too crazy, add a multi-mesh resolution to it, which distorted my oval, and now I have some gap around the cutout oval. Yes, I can reprint them, but hey, I was trying to move forward with this project, and maybe I come up with a little bit better design than just the PlayStation logo. I don't know. If you have any ideas for some cool designs we can put on there, leave them down in the comments below. All right, fine. We'll keep moving forward. Again, we can backlight these as well. I did a test with, the light shining through the acrylic, came through, fine, cool. We'll backlight it. Hey, that would have been great to remember before I put it all together. I forgot to drill holes so we could wire everything and keep it all nice and tidy. Maybe in the future, I'll find a way to get a drill in there, cut some holes so I can wire stuff. But for now, we're going to stick with the 3D printed inserts that are held in by sticky tack because, hey, that's another little happy mistake I made. How am I going to mount them in there? So right now, they're just being held in by this sticky tack. Happy little mistakes. The last happy mistake was where the PS5 actually sat. I swear I did measure this one twice. And the PS5 does have a circular base to help it stand up straight. Apparently, I took the width of that as a whole and didn't include the thickness of my walls. So with the stand, hey, that's the outside wall to outside wall measurement, not inside wall to inside wall. Again, another little happy mistake that could have been avoided if I had just slowed down. The second area of happy little accidents is the assembly. I did a lot of stupid things in this part, okay? Granted, a lot of my holes at first that I was drilling into the side were on. Now, I have already said previously, I got a 3D printer. So you could ask Paul, why didn't you just print out a jig? Paul, why didn't you just print out, a 2D map so you could just easily make sure you hit all the holes where they're supposed to be? Why did you go and make this so complicated? Why? I don't know. I just did. I was like, let's do this. Let's get this done. Just measure it up by holding the walls to the sides of the piece and then drill. I don't know. I don't know. I was feeling, let's do this the dumb way. So don't do it this way. Make a jig, print off a guide. Just don't do it my way. In an attempt to fix my mistakes, I got the Dremel out and tried making the holes a little bigger, getting things moving. It just wasn't happening. I was either too far up, too far down, and risked blowing out the top or bottom of the stand surface. So in the end, what I did was I used far less dowels than I had started with. I think on this one, I went down to 3 or 4 dowels. The 3 or 4 dowels worked, and that's realistically all I needed for this build. I didn't need as many as I put in there. I just created more work for myself with that many holes. Now, a couple of the issues I had are going to come down to clamping and clamping force. I know I put a little bit too much pressure where I put the top clamps versus the bottom because some of the walls are a little bit in. Not great, but next time I need to make sure all my clamps have nice force pushing so they stay parallel to each other and I don't get this leaning in motion. Also, you can tell from that with that is in the faces, you'll see some gaps in below or top in some of the corners. That's just showing me it's not perfectly square. But for me, we can fix those mistakes with a little bit of wood putty, and we'll talk about that in the prepping and the painting part. Back to the assembly, I got it all together. And that's where I forgot to drill holes to do the wiring for the backlight. Another mistake. Another one made because I was rushing to get things done and I wanted to see how it turned out, instead of going over that checklist and making sure I did what I was supposed to. If I had thought about the lights before I cut everything out, I could have just cut them out with my CNC, made some great pass-throughs in those, but they were an afterthought to begin with. The third area of happy little mistakes is the prepping and painting. Now here's where I did take my time and then didn't take my time. I took a lot of good care of sanding everything down, filling in all the holes, and getting it ready for a nice base coat of paint. I had some leftover Gorilla wood fill that I used and got these faces where I didn't get them perfectly square and got them filled in, and I thought I did a pretty good job. So I got the wood fill in, sanded it down, tried to make it all look nice and as flat as possible. I was using this plywood, so I went around and found any holes or voids that I could and filled those in and sanded them in. I sanded all the interior parts of the PlayStation logo. I really did spend a lot of good time sanding and making sure I could try to get as flat of a surface as possible and no voids. I could have also used another product that I've used previously. It's called DAP and it's for drywall and kind of giving texture or smoothing out things. I've used it before with really great results, but hey, I was working and getting things done and ready to move forward, and I just went with what I had. I should have stopped at that point, ordered the DAP, and been done with it. Instead, I went with the wood fill. Not that there's anything wrong with wood fill. It's just wrong when it's been sitting in your garage for 2 years and probably not the best conditions. What I noticed was when I sanded it off a lot of times, a lot of chunks would just fall out. It didn't have a real great adhesion in some places. Other places it was great. So we've done our wood fill, we've sanded it down. Now we're going to do our primer. Now I did 2 coats of primer and I used this gray automotive primer for it. Great. It was this. I love this stuff. I've been using it for 3D printing. I thought, hey, let's try it on the wood. Let's see if this will give me an even smoother surface. Got it on, sanded it down, was able to get a little bit smoother in areas, and I was really happy with it. And what happened after all that prep work, all that time spent? I went and rushed the paint job. I went too heavy with my first coat of paint. And also the humidity didn't help. But hey, when is it not humid here? I should have gone slower, lighter coats than just, hey, let's go. I want to get this done. It started crackling. It was too heavy. So your paint should look like this for your first layer. You should still be able to see that primer through. You don't want the whole thing covered. Get light coats, let it dry for 5 to 10 minutes, do another light coat, let it dry to 5 to 10 minutes, do another light coat, 5 to 10 minutes, and build up the coats slowly. Don't rush in there and just hose it down with spray paint. Oh, I don't know why I did that. Well, I do know why. I was tired and I wanted to move the project forward. I know, a lot of that, just trying to move the project on. But hey, remember, take that step back, think and plan out what you're going to do next. Don't just drench it in paint and then have to sand down all that paint job because it's crackling because you drenched it in spray paint. Oh, it was so frustrating. And those were some of the mistakes I made during this project. There were still more, I'm sure, that I forgot about that I made. But I know a lot of times during this project, I was like, why'd I do that? But it all boiled down to rushing, trying to move the project forward, and poor planning. Even if the result was great in the end. I still love it. My family loves it. It does its job. It holds the PS5 and the controller stands. There could be work and improvement, but I finished. Yay! That's what matters, right? Now, this project wasn't all doom and gloom. There were some really great parts. My long mill, no issues there. Cut like it always did. Used the Jenny bits. Hey, compression and downcut bits worked great. Etzel cam was great. No problems there. Illustrator worked great. No problems there. A lot of things worked the way they were supposed to. And there we go. This project that took me to the edge and back of making happy little mistakes. And if you enjoyed watching me make these happy little mistakes, hit that subscribe and like button. And hey, if you have your own little happy mistake story, leave it down in the comments below. Remember, we all make mistakes. It's how we learn from those mistakes that counts. And you know what? No, we don't make mistakes. We just make new designs. So until next time, remember, keep making stuff.